Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
And good morning, everyone. Phil Penarski here with the Wood TV Live Desk. Hope you're having a great start to your Tuesday. We have some very exciting news to share with everyone today. After 34 years, the North Country National Scenic Trail has officially received national park status. We're very excited to now get the chance to talk a little bit more about it. And so joining us today to talk about the momentous news is Andrea Ketchmark. She is the Executive Director of the trail. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Very excited, as I mentioned, to get the chance to talk to you. And obviously, congratulations are in order to, first off, on receiving national park status. Of just kind of give us your initial emotions. You know, we're only about a week after it was kind of announced that you guys had received that. So just talk a little bit about your initial emotions after all that hard work.
Well, there was some surprise because we did, as you said, we've been advocating for this for 34 years. Although we did get an inkling that something would be happening last week, we weren't sure exactly what, and we weren't sure when the announcement was going to come. So when I got the email from the National Park Service on Thursday saying that it was going to be released in about an hour and that there would be a press conference with Director Sams and Senator Baldwin of Wisconsin, we were just overjoyed. And I think our biggest emotion was, gratitude. Having worked on this issue for so long and having this be such a grassroots effort that all of our volunteers and supporters across, 8 states have been wanting to see happen. It was just, a whole lot of gratitude on that day.
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely. No, big emotions, obviously big news, but really the trail itself is pretty big, so it kind of all adds up together. I mean, it stretches 4,800 miles from North Dakota all the way down to Vermont, and a great portion of it really resides here in West Michigan, all the way up from the UP, the Wisconsin-Michigan border, all the way down here to the Michigan-Ohio border. So really here in West Michigan, we do kind of have a big chunk of it. Talk a little bit about those efforts, though, that you mentioned, 34 years in the making, kind of advocating for this. What really went into that, and really just, what do you think kind of put that final nail in it that, we finally did receive this status?
Yeah, so first, Michigan does have more miles of the North Country National Scenic Trail than any other state, at about 1,200 miles through the state. So it's just, so wonderful that we call this home for our office at the North Country Trail Association and the National Park Service office for the whole trail. Both of our offices are based out here in Lowell, Michigan, which is pretty special. So we have been advocating for this for a long time, both within the National Park Service, our National Park Service office. We have been administered by the National Park Service since 1980, since the trail was first designated by Congress. So the trail is not new, and our relationship with the Park Service isn't new. But we lacked this thing called unit status, which 3 of the other trails within the National Park Service have, and one of them is the famed Appalachian Trail, which many people know, and not as many people know the North Country Trail. And our lack of unit status is one of those, one of the reasons that people don't know us as much, because we were literally left off the map. The map of national parks would have, Yosemite and Pictured Rocks and Sleeping Bear Dunes and the Appalachian Trail, but not the North Country. So we have an advocacy committee here at the North Country Trail Association, and we are in constant communication with all of our elected officials across the whole trail. So 8 states worth of senators and members of Congress, but we also regularly talk to the leadership of the National Park Service and other agencies that we work with. So our efforts on this over the years have been both by asking the agency to make this change, because they fully have the authority to be able to, do that administratively. But we've also been communicating with our elected officials to help nudge the National Park Service along. And Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin has been such a huge champion in past years. She has introduced legislation to remedy this. The Park Service's response to that legislation was, well, you don't need legislation, we can do it ourselves. And both of our senators here in Michigan, Senator Stabenow and Peters, have been supportive of this effort as well. So Why now? We're really not quite sure. I think it is a combination of, the new leadership in recent years in the National Park Service with Director Sams, and our relationship with them has, made them see that this is a critical need. I think our focus for the agency on trails, and especially for bringing recreational resources to the people. National parks are no longer these, big kind of square parks that are out west, and you have to go to Yosemite or Yellowstone to get a great experience. We have trails like the North Country National Scenic Trail that go through tons of communities, and that bring recreation right to the heart of our people, and it has a lot more accessibility, which is really, really important. And I think the National Park Service is seeing that. So their decision here last week was really in line with where they see the future of the National Park Service going.
Right. Now, and you mentioned obviously getting the recognition from the National Park Service is one of the big things, obviously, with getting this unit status. Being left off the map when people are looking through national parks, now they are going to see the North Country Trail. But what else, kind of having this unit status, what else does that give to the trail other than the recognition of being a national park?
Yeah, well, we hope funding. There are multiple opportunities within the National Park Service for funding that were previously only available to units, or are currently only available to units. So, as our superintendent with the National Park Service has, tried to increase the amount of funding we're able to put in our planning efforts, in our land acquisition efforts, in the actual building and maintenance of the trail, we've struggled because there are multiple, hurdles that we come up against with being told, no, that's not available to you because you're not a unit. So now we will no longer have those hurdles, and I don't think it'll change drastically overnight to have the whole trail funded by the National Park Service. This is still in partnership with lots of different partners, and our work as a nonprofit to bring those resources to the trail. It definitely tips the scales a little bit, and allows us to access more resources, which is critical to get the trail done.
Absolutely. And Andrea, you mentioned obviously you being the executive director of the North Country Trail. What makes the trail itself? I mean, just speak to it a little bit. What makes it such not only an important part of the national park kind of scene for people that are trying to explore and really embrace the great outdoors, but also just for the country itself, being able for people to really kind of experience it? What makes the trail just such an important part of the legacy of the United States, really?
Yeah. So this trail, a little bit different than the Appalachian Trail or Pacific Crest that follows the spine of a mountain range. The North Country Trail was designated to highlight the natural, cultural, and historical special things about the northern United States. So going through, pastoral land, farmland, to the north woods, out to prairies of North Dakota, you see such diversity along the North Country Trail. And that's what we often hear from hikers, especially hikers who do some of those other trails, what they find really unique about the North Country Trail. And the fact that we go through so many communities, we do have really remote sections of the trail up in the boundary waters of Minnesota, and, a lot of the UP is pretty remote, but we go right through the heart of Lowell, Michigan, of Marquette, of Petoskey. So we have a Trail Town program, and we really are bringing the trail to the people, which is, again, what makes this designation so important, as well as it's changing that dynamic of what a national park is. One of the biggest questions we've been getting this week is, does that mean we're going to have park fees anytime we try to access the trail and at trailheads? And the answer is no. This is a different type of national park, and it's bringing recreation and access to millions of people that live near the trail.
All right, Andrea, well, we enjoyed having you here. But before we let you go, one last question we have for you. Obviously, it's been 34 years in the making getting this unit status for the North Country Trail. Now that you guys have it, I mean, what's next for the trail? What's the next couple of years, next couple of months kind of look like for you guys?
Yeah. First, we're thanking people, everybody that has put so much effort into this, including our members of Congress and the National Park Service and all of our volunteers. We're just spending a lot of time saying thank you. And a lot of time talking to folks like you, which is incredible. Next is focusing on filling our gaps. The trail has 3,200 miles on the ground currently, and still have 1,600 miles to plan. This is a work in progress, so we are putting a lot of effort into route planning in those gaps, into easement acquisition and land acquisition, and working with land trusts, and building and maintaining the trail beyond that. So a whole lot of effort still to go into it, and we would love everybody to join us in that. We have lots of volunteer opportunities for folks out there.
Right, now a lot left to do, so we're actually going to let you go ahead and get started on that. Andrea, thank you so much for stopping by today. We really do appreciate it.
No, thank you so much, Phil. This has been great.
Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody else for tuning into this latest edition of the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm Phil Pinarski, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.